So, what do we learn this week about red-black vampires in Modern? And this wrap-up's going to be a little bit different than usual, but bear with me, I think it's going to be good. So, overall, our record was 2-3, and 2-3 is obviously not great. However, I felt like the deck actually had potential. There was some really powerful and good synergies going on, and I was kind of surprised by how well the deck actually worked. So, the problem with the deck was a few very major flaws, and I'm not going to go through them all again. We actually talked about 3 lessons that I learned from this deck for our Brewers Minute, so I'll link that video in the description. So if you want a breakdown of the numbers being weird, not playing enough of our good cards, getting too cute, some of the big problems that were with the original build, make sure to check that out. But what I wanted to do for our wrap-up was, instead of just rehashing again the problems with the deck, which I feel like we talked about through the gameplay videos, we talked about in Brewers Minute, we don't need to go over that again. Instead, let's look at some potential possibilities for actually improving this deck. And that's what we see on screen now. This is my first take at fixing and upgrading the red-black vampires deck. As you can see right off the bat, a lot more 4-ofs. We have 4 of our good cards, we have more removal, we get rid of some of the really hideously bad cards that were just not really doing it, some of the worst vampires, because one of the big things I realized is, while we are a vampire deck and we have a few cards that care about vampires, we actually have a lot of cards that it just doesn't really matter. So I don't think this deck has enough lords and enough vampire matters cards to really play horrible vampires like Olivia's Bloodsworn and so forth. But anyway, let's break down the few major changes in this deck. So first off, we standardized the 1-drops. Instead of the weird, a couple of this 1-drop and a few of that one and a little bit of this, we have 4 Falconwrath Gorger, 3 Vampire Lacerator, so technically 1 less 1-drop overall, but it's Insolent Neonate that's out of the deck. It's just gone. We want to be aggressive, we want to be hurting our opponent, attacking our opponent, so we really want 2 powered 1-drops, not the Insolent Neonate, which is a really great card in certain synergy decks like Dredge, but not really where you want to be, I don't think, for just Vampire Tribals. So that's big change number 1. Number 2 is Olivia Bloodsworn. You can see there's no little number underneath Olivia's Bloodsworn. Thank God, because this card is so bad. It is bad. It is not good enough to be in the deck. We don't have enough vampire synergies to make it work in the deck. Just all around, we don't want this card. So Olivia's Bloodsworn is gone. Instead, we get really good cards, and this is part of what we talked about during the Brewers Minute. Is the reason to play black in Modern is discard. We also have more Thought Seizes and stuff in the sideboard, and Fatal Push. The reason to play red in Modern is Lightning Bolt, and if you're not playing those cards and you're playing a deck in those colors, you need a really good reason to not be doing it, and our deck does not have a good reason. There has no reason at all to not be playing these cards that are the reasons to play the colors. So 4 Lightning Bolt gives us some reach, gives us better removal. Fatal Push gives us better removal. So these cards just really are going to make the deck run a ton smoother and are essentially just auto includes when we're building a deck in the colors. We also get 4 Smuggler's Copter, and one of my big takeaways while playing the deck is that Smuggler's Copter was insane. It was the card we wanted to draw most almost every single game. It was so good. It is way more powerful than I thought it would be, and I've always been hesitant about Smuggler's Copter in Modern because of Lightning Bolt, and it seems like an easy way to kill it, but the card is push enough and good enough, especially in this deck, where we can discard Bloodghast, we have some Madness synergies, where we can get a Falconwrath Gorger, crew up a Smuggler's Copter, attack, discard a Vampire, cast it with Madness thanks to Gorger, so there's some really sweet tricks we can do with it, so it's better than just a 3/3 attacking looter, which is already really good. So we have 4 of those now, and that was one of the most frustrating parts of the original build, is we just only had 2, so we wouldn't draw them very often, and we always wanted to have one in hand. The other thing to consider, and it's not in this deck, but if you want to get even more in depth, I think that Jund Vampires might be the way to go. Collected Company is kind of this cheat card that can make any bad tribe into a pretty decent tribe, and Vampires naturally fits the solo, we might have to change up a couple of things. The biggest one being Gatekeeper. I think if we go Collected Company and go Jund Vampires, and by Jund I mean literally playing our same deck, red-black Vampires, but splashing Collected Company, maybe playing a few green cards in the sideboard like Ancient Grudge would be a nice addition to the sideboard that we don't have now. But for the most part, just keeping the same deck and playing Collected Company is a way to get 2 Vampires. We would probably have to dump Gatekeeper because it doesn't really work with Collected Company because we need to kick it for it to be good. Just as a 2-2, it's not really ideal. But we could play more Captivating Vampires or something like that. More Lords to hit off Collected Company, which would probably be pretty good. I think my first take would just be to play this red-black Vampire list, which is essentially what we played in videos, just a little bit upgraded, playing a few better cards, getting rid of some of the worst cards, tightening up the numbers a bit. But I think you could go even further, like I said, and look at splashing Collected Company. It's easy enough in Modern to go 3 colors, and there might be enough of a payoff to actually do that. So anyway, I think Red-Black Vampires is a tribe that has potential, I guess is how I leave it. I don't think the list that we played in video was actually very good, but we have actually fixed many of those problems already. I think this list actually looks pretty reasonable, and like I said, with Collected Company and an additional splash color, it could be even better than it is now, but I think there's actually a reasonable chance that you could build a playable and fairly powerful Vampire deck for Modern, so I'm excited to keep working with the archetype. Maybe we'll play it on stream sometime or something, but anyway, that's been our Much Abrew About Nothing for this week. If you decide to take Vampires in Modern out for a spin, definitely take the upgraded list. I think this list is much more consistent than the one we played in videos, and like I said, you can grab that if you follow the link in the description to the article on the site. And if you want more lessons from Red Black Vampires, check out the Brewer's Minute, also linked below. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the videos, and I will talk to you soon.